2020 has turned out to be a very strange year, but there is still political business that must be taken care of. Hello again, everyone. I am the Conservative Pelican, and I want to welcome you to the 2020 North Carolina Republican Party Convention. And this is the Pregame show. This is my fourth year of covering the NCGOP convention. Started back in 2014, then took a break for a few years, and this is my now third consecutive year, as I started back in 2018 after a little mirage move to Florida, and I don't talk about that. Now, in years past, I have broadcast the pregame show from the confines of a decorative hotel room near the convention site. Unfortunately, this year will be different. Reason number one is that I'm home is because there's a lot of stormy weather out in eastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia that caused me to delay my road trip out that way until next week because I got this big tropical depression rainmaker thingamajig out there. But also another reason is and there was actually a press conference held today at the Greenville Convention Center to highlight the impact of Governor Roy Cooper's cancellation. So here we go. Today, hundreds of North Carolina Republicans should be descending upon Greenville to begin the 2020 NCGOP convention at the Greenville Convention Center. However, just 10 days ago, Governor Roy Cooper's administration rejected the detailed mitigation plan submitted by the NCGOP with valuable inputs from highly qualified doctors and healthcare professionals that conformed to the CDC guidelines. Instead of allowing the delegates to safely and responsibly exercise their First Amendment rights, 1,400 delegates will join the NCGOP virtually from their homes and county party offices tomorrow. North Carolina Republicans are pumped up and ready to win this November, whether we have a convention or not. The truly sad thing is that dozens of small businesses in Greenville will miss out because our convention is being forced to go virtual. Unlike the governor, we are fully committed to the people of Greenville, North Carolina, and we will be back to Greenville to rally with voters later this year. Then some quotes and statements from participants in the press conference. First from Chairman Michael Watley. We are very disappointed that we will not be kicking off the NCGOP state convention in Greenville this evening because Governor Cooper and his administration blocked us from moving forward with the convention, despite our plans to comply with all applicable federal, state, and local guidelines and CDC regulations. Cooper has blocked Republicans from holding our most important annual event. Additionally, Greenville has been denied an economic shot in the arm, which is badly needed after the lockdowns. Then we have NC House Representative Perrin Jones, who is a medical doctor. Let's see what he has to say about this whole conundrum. It is unfortunate that the NCGOP is unable to hold their annual convention in Pitt County. This would have been a real shot in the arm to our community from an economic standpoint, and given the attendees, both virtual and in person, given our attendees something of a respite from the daily grind of dealing with COVID-19. The NCGOP followed all public health recommendations, including a virtual option that many attendees chose given their particular health circumstances, as well as appropriate physical spacing, the wearing of a face covering, and an adequate number of hand sanitizing stations. At some point, North Carolina must convert from a sprinter's pace to a marathon pace in dealing with COVID-19. To my mind, this means we must balance all public health concerns, including those associated with social isolation, along with the education, economic, and recreational opportunities our state has lost as a result of this pandemic. A key part of finding this balance is the recognition that individuals must be given the choice to weigh the risk and benefits of participating in certain activities and trust in them enough to do so in a manner that ensures a reasonable amount of safety for themselves and their fellow citizens. Yeah, it's a medical doctor, by the way. Yeah, I mean, most of the media, mainstream liberal media, they're not going to talk to people like Perrin Jones. They have an agenda, and they're just going to talk to people who are all, COVID-19's the worst thing ever. We're all going to die. Instead of someone like Perrin Jones who says, yes, there's a virus going around, but people need to be able to live their lives and realize that with anything in life, there's a risk. Yeah, seriously. Virus going around or not. Man, we hear from the great Mayor P.J. Connolly of Greenville, North Carolina. He says, I would like to express my appreciation for Greenville being selected as the host site for this year's state Republican convention, and note that we are sorry it could not take place. The event would have been a significant impact on our city by bringing in nearly $1 million during a time when things typically slowed down in Greenville. That's because Greenville is a college town, and during the summer, college towns are kind of slow. I want to also thank all of the staff of the convention center and other groups that worked diligently to make the event a reality up until a final decision had to be made. It is my hope that we can all work with all parties to host another event in the near future that will help us showcase all of the wonderful things happening here in the East. And finally, we hear from the chairman of the Pitt County Republican Party, Mr. Gary Weaver. He says, regardless of political opinion, the businesses in Greenville, as well as the restaurants and hotels, are really missing economic benefit that would have resulted from an in-person convention. So, that is the press conference that was held earlier today. Last night, we had a mock convention. Now, this virtual thing is basically you're going to have to run it through a computer or a smartphone or something that is capable of using the Zoom application. And the good news that with 1,400 people, the NCGOP recently actually bought upgraded software to handle the Zoom capability, because this Zoom is the very same thing was used in the NFL draft earlier this year, the MLB draft, and a lot of other a lot bigger events than this state convention. So I do the mock convention I'll talk to you a little about, but first I have a few announcements. This convention is going to be a one-day affair. That's it. Usually these conventions are sprawled out over 3 or 4 days. This year is going to be a one-day affair. It's going to start tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. and we should be done around 7, I believe, in the evening. Also, there's going to be no executive committee meeting on Saturday morning. There was talk of possibly doing a virtual meeting of the executive committee, but earlier, last week, a vote from the Central Committee was taken, and in that vote, the vote was overwhelmingly that the next executive committee meeting should be an in-person meeting. And so right now, the governor's executive order in phase two, which limits your gatherings to, I think, it's like 10, no more than 10 people in a room kind of thing. And the executive committee, when we meet, usually it's at least 200, 300 people in a room. So we have to get to phase three first. Governor Cooper's phase two executive order expires next Friday, the 17th. Assuming that he decides to go to phase three, there's no guarantee. We might stay in phase two, or we might go all the way back to phase one, and that'd be But so as it stands right now, probably looking at August for an executive committee in-person meeting, but you never know with this dodo bird of a governor and what he's cooking up. Also, the NCGOP, assuming we get back to normal by August the 3rd, we're going to start every Monday night from August 3rd until Election Day. Every Monday, we're going to have Republican victory events around the state. Right now, we have one scheduled in Hickory for August the 3rd. It's going to be every Monday except for the Republican National Convention week and Labor Day. And then also, there's an event in Greenville that they're going to try to schedule sometime between November and December. Personally, I would love for them to bring the state convention and have it there next year, because they weren't able to have it this year. But a lot of times these state conventions are planned like 2 years in advance at least, so I don't know. But then again, I've not heard when the 2021 convention, when and where it will be. Okay, so we had the mock convention last night. Again, on the Zoom app. Basically, what's going to happen is we're supposed to get an email. And that email is going to have, the voting ballots in them. Okay, so use your email account to vote. And then you can use a smartphone or a laptop computer, desktop computer, the screen of that to stream the actual convention proceedings. Your guest speakers, all the business session, everything like that. Of course, my job is a hobby, actually. I don't get paid for this, but then my hobby is to try to give a summary, an analysis of the convention proceedings the day after. So the mock convention, we looked at 2 different ballots. Okay, we had one ballot with 1 question and the second ballot with 3 questions. The first question on the first ballot was, do you think Roy Cooper wears a mask? 91% of the vote said only during press conference. That's the way I voted. 9% said yes, leaders wear masks, of course. And then 4 people voted to abstain from the vote. And I think last night we had around 450 people participate in the mock convention. On the second ballot, we had 3 questions. First one was a nickname for Roy Cooper. King Roy won with 39% of the vote. 32% of the vote went with Wrong Way Roy, and then Crooked Cooper scored a 29%. I went with King Roy, so I win again, baby. Okay, next one was a nickname for Joe Biden. 43% went with Sleepy Joe. 35% went with Basement Biden. And 22% just went with plain old Crazy Joe. And of course, I picked the right one again, Sleepy Joe. And finally, Cal Cunningham, running for U.S. Senate. Corrupt Cunningham won with 43% of the vote. I picked that one too. Silent Cal, 32%. And then Cowardly Cal was with 25%. So, another thing we learned last night at the mock convention was that in all the conventions I've been to from 2011 until 2014, 2011 to last year, except with that 3-year hiatus from 2015 2017, but all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 previous conventions that I've been to, state conventions, the vote totals were always read out loud by county for any contested race. Could be state chairman or RNC committee man, committee woman. Well, I found out last night that these vote totals are actually going to be private for this year, which I vehemently disagree with. And hopefully next year, when we go back to a live convention, they'll, make the vote totals, announce them, and make them public. So in other words, tomorrow we're going to be voting on the RNC committee woman is a contested race between Keisha Lineberger and Kim Cotton West. The vote will be taken, and then we'll have while the vote is being tabulated, we'll have a speaker or two on the speak to the convention body, and then the vote total will be announced, and it'll be either Miss Lineberger has X number of votes and Cotton West has X number of votes, and that's the ball game basically. So it leaves out a lot of I can't interpret the county vote totals like I did last year for the chairman and vice chairman's race. So it definitely, being a stats nut like I am, it definitely takes a lot of fun out of the vote, I think. That's just poo-poo. Let's see. What else do I have here? Okay. Now, usually during the convention pregame show, I have a goodie bag that I like to dig into on the air. But due to the virtual nature of this year's convention, there's not going to be a goodie bag. Instead, it's going to be a cyber smorgasbord of information, or aka an email of plentiful attachments. But unfortunately right now, the time is 5:31 p.m. and I am still waiting for the email goodie bag to arrive, which is unfortunate because in past years, the day before convention, the Thursday before the Friday convention begins, usually by 3:30 I'm registered and I got my goodie bag with me and I'm already reading the agenda and everything else in there. But this year's just, it's a strange year. It's a different year. So, okay, 5:32 and I'm still waiting for that email. Come on. Seriously, I was doing homework. Been doing homework from 9 o'clock this morning for my college class and just stopped about 5 o'clock. I took a 30-minute break for lunch, and I've been working all day. I'm like ready. I am so ready to bite into that email. Well, metaphorically speaking, but okay. So there will actually be a part 2 to the pregame show when I get that email. Hopefully, we'll get that email soon. Hopefully before 9 or 10 o'clock tonight when I start when we go to bed. So, anyway, in the meantime, this is the Conservative Pelican, and I'll talk to y'all again soon. Bye-bye.